all talking about making your first 100K in wholesaling. And I'm not going to do this in the normal manner we do it. I'm going to kind of give you the express version. For those super achievers out there that want to make a really quick 100K, I'm going to show you a couple key differences that you need to include in your wholesaling business. And we're going to go over that all today. So there's a couple things we have to do. We have to go through a checklist of things we have to do to make 100K in wholesaling. And the reason I like to do this checklist is so you guys completely understand that there's no accident making 100K in wholesaling. And honestly, the things I give you on this list, if you do not do them, most likely you're not going to make 100K, hands down. Forget about making it in 1 month, even 1 year. If you do not go through the Rick Ginn wholesaling checklist of musts, then honestly, you're going to suffer. So let's go and start with the most simple and the basic, which you know exactly what I'm going to say. These have to be off-market properties. I'm sorry. When you have an on-market property, number one, most likely that seller and or realtor or broker is swinging for the fence for the highest and best price because they feel they have a very good property. And honestly, I don't even blame people for doing it. So off-market properties gives you an advantage when it comes to wholesaling. These are typically properties that nobody else is bidding on, that the seller needs help and a lot more than just selling the house. And number three, you don't have to pay the most for the property because when somebody puts it on market, the highest bidder usually wins. And if you think about high bidding and wholesaling, they do not work together. So I've never seen someone be successful in wholesaling that deals with on-market properties. Can you do on-market properties? Absolutely. As a beginner, it is a complete nightmare. Trust me on this. You see, you need to find people that want to sell their properties, that you do not have a parade of other people constantly barraging them with offers. Because if you have that, then he or she who pays the most is the winner, and that actually would make you the loser in wholesaling. So make sure you absolutely understand that. Next thing, you have to be direct to seller. Without having that direct connection to the seller, AKA if you go through a realtor or a broker, you're never going to get the seller's true motivations. You're never going to get the truth of what's happening. And you are most likely going to get a lot of resistance from the broker or the realtor. Why? Because their ego is telling them, get as much money as you humanly can possibly get, no matter what the outcome is. If it takes them 6 months to find out that highest and best offer, that's what the seller's going to get. And 6 months is not going to be advantageous to you as a wholesaler. So if you go direct to seller, you can simply cut down on the chain. So you ever remember that time you were in grade school and they did the little story where one person told another person, and by the time it got to full circle around, it had nothing to do with what they initially talked to it. And that's what happens when you don't go directly to the seller. You get a spin, and 9 times out of 10, you are not going to get the truth. And if you don't get the truth, you are not going to get a good deal in wholesaling. Now, knowing that, now you know you need to go direct to seller. Every now and then I've had a third party, either a property manager or maybe even a title company. But for the most part, when he or she connects and talks directly, it is a much faster, much more transparent transaction. And it usually gets done more effective and you wind up actually getting a better deal. Go ahead and prove me wrong. Go ahead and go on MLS, get on with a realtor or broker and go through your 3 to 6 month fight to get a slight discount off overvalued property that once retail. How are you going to talk them down 40 and 50%? You're not going to do it. And that's why I don't even bother doing it. Have I done it before? Yes. But the amount of work required, the amount of experience required is not for the faint of heart, especially if you're brand new and you're just starting out wholesaling. The last thing I want you to do is absolutely struggle in this area. So direct to seller, guys, off-market property. Those are the sequential order. Now, number 3, you got to have a motivated seller or a motivated house, or in the absolute perfect world in wholesaling, you have a motivated seller, which means they want to sell. They're having difficulties. It might be financial. It might be stress. It might be emotional. They want certainty in life. And that way we exchange speed and convenience for them. Now, the house might be motivated, meaning the house has a ton of deferred maintenance. It is completely outdated and it needs a lot of work. And the average person's not only going to be able to get, they're not going to be able to get conventional financing, definitely FHA, maybe a regular conventional loan if they put down 30%. And what this does, guys, is it If the house is motivated, I always stay with the seller because it's just a matter of time before the seller comes motivated. And then if you have a seller that really needs to sell the property and the house is motivated, these are two conditions that would make you a perfect wholesaling deal. So it stands to reason you're going to have at least one of the two of those conditions to actually get a very positive outcome from wholesaling. Guys, I don't get good deals unless the seller is motivated or the house is motivated. And if I get them both, it's usually one of the easiest wholesale transactions to do. Guys, we are not realtors. You've got to remind yourself every day, we don't act as realtors because realtors look at properties and they convince people to list their properties. As wholesalers, we're looking to buy discounted properties so we can move them fast to our cash buyers. So it stands to believe they're in two separate worlds. That's why we want off market, direct to seller, and we want to deal with motivation. Seller or house, either way, I want motivation to make it work. So now that we know the basic requirements, let me give you what you need to hit the 100K number. You're going to need volume. And mostly this is going to focus if you're new. If you're new to the business 6 months or less, it's like taking a car from zero. How do you get to 100 miles an hour? You got to go to mile 1, then you got to go to mile 2, which basically 100% doubling. Then you're going to go to 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And before you know it, you're at 100. But so many of you guys try to get to 100 and think you can just jump driving 80, 90 miles an hour. You're going to have to build momentum. And it's painful in the beginning. I get it. I was there. I didn't have a lot of leads. I try to make every lead work, even leads that were really bad, because I didn't have a lot of leads. So how do you make up for this? You make it up with volume, tons of volume. I will show you in today's live stream how to get tons of volume. We are getting ready to jump on it. And last but not least, man, you're going to have to hustle and grind it out. I have never met a hustler, a wholesaler, AKA hustler, that didn't go through at least 2 full seasons of hustle. What do I mean season? Season 6 months. It means they grind it out. Whatever they had to do to get those deals done, they just got it done. It wasn't pretty. It was actually quite painful. And it forced them to take actions they normally wouldn't have taken. And once you can get through 2 seasons of hustle, you can really dial this business in. And I'll go on to say, if you can get 2 years into wholesaling, you write the rules on how much you want to work, what you want to focus on, and you can actually do whatever you want to do. I'm telling you guys, it's really, really important that you understand this part. Now, I'm going to do it in reverse order based on profitability. So some of you are looking like to hit 100K right off the bat. Some of you are just looking to get your first deal started. So don't look at the order in so much of importance, but I'm going to show you in a perfect world for 100K month or even 100K year for those of you just starting out on how you do it. Now, in the beginning, you've got to do wholesaling. And your biggest key to this is you got to have volume, because volume is going to make up for your inexperience. It's also going to teach you how to talk to your sellers. And more importantly, it's going to teach you how to qualify and build rapport with any seller. The only way you get good at it is you hear a ton of objections, you get success on deals, and the only way you can do it is volume. So if you only have 3 leads and you spend all your energy on those 3 leads, odds are you're going to get disappointed because you don't have enough volume. Now, do not replace volume with easy stuff. MLS listings, just basically going through Zillow FSBOs. You can do all that stuff, but that is not a replacement, because I can get you thousands and thousands of leads just on those 2 sources alone, but most likely they are not going to be the best leads in the world, because you know how I feel about on-market properties. They're a pain in the butt. It doesn't mean you can't do them. They're just a pain in the butt. So let's walk through. So now I gave you the checklist, the 2 things in your attitude you have to make it work. So number 1, I want you to understand this. I love probates. Why? All you got to do is 2 or 3 probates a year. Heck, I'll even challenge you to do 1 probate a year. My average probate deal is 4 times more profitable than a standard assignment contract. So if you did 15 grand on your standard assignments, it is reasonable to say if you actually worked probates and did it consistently and didn't quit on the 89th day, that 15 grand will turn into 45. But you got to be willing to put in the work. And it's not so much that it's a ton of work. It's actually, there's only so many leads. You basically mail them a letter. Some of you do sticky notes, but mailing a letter works very well, and getting contact with your PR. The problem is why most people don't like to do it, because they don't get instant results, and they feel if they don't get a deal within 3 months, it's not working. Probates don't work that way. And that's why they're 4 times as profitable, because if you can stick it out 6 months a year and just get 1, that's like doing 4 deals how you do on a normal deal. And not only that, most of these owners in the states you deal with, especially Florida, the owners are out of state, the properties are vacant, and they need a lot of work and they need extra time to get a probate deal done. What does that mean? That extra time, especially as you a new beginner, gives you the luxury of taking months to sell your property. And you can sell it sometimes close to retail if it's not in too bad of a shape. And that's why probates make the absolute perfect wholesaling lead. High motivation. And number two, they're easy to sell because you get very little resistance because they're vacant. And most of them have a lot of deferred maintenance, which means the seller doesn't want to fix it up. So they're willing to give a discount. You just have to haggle that discount. The best thing you can do in probates is work out an amazing rapport conversation with them. So that being said, I would always push you to start with probates. Now, the second factor that is going to 10x your profitability in your deals is going to be wholetails. And a wholetail is basically when you take it's basically when you take a wholesale deal that's not in too bad a shape, that maybe is a desirable 322 in your area, and the house looks really good. Sometimes they even come furnished. It just might need a little bit of cleanup. It might need a pressure cleaner. It might need a paintbrush, maybe just a minor amount of flooring. Here's the key. How do we define a wholesale? A wholesale is basically when you take a wholesale deal that you got a really good deal on it. It needs minimal rehab. Here is the key distinguisher. Rick, what is the magic number? It's usually $10,000 or less and less than 2 weeks of worth of work. It can't be 20 because 20 is going to wind up being a month's worth of work and it's going to screw up your numbers. So if you can keep that in mind, it's 10K or less. When it's 10K or less, that means you can turn it around. The whole key with wholesale is they are cherry-picked properties that can be churned fast. What's my definition of a wholesale? From the time you put it under contract to the time you sell it, no more than 90 days. On the 91st day, you sell it for whatever the market price is and move on with your life. Now you're thinking, man, Rick, 90 days is a long time. It's not at all. So if I was going to make $15,000 on a wholesale on a quick assignment, and all I have to do is a little pressure cleaning, maybe I got to put in a new fridge, and pay a cleaning company to go and clean up, maybe paint one room, then I can turn that into 2.5 times the profit. Maybe the 15K goes to around 40. Here's the key is I'm in and out. I'm not doing the work. I'm going to pay someone to do it. And if I keep it to 10 grand, that should keep me under 2 weeks and I won't get stuck in this ridiculous rehab, which fix and flippers get stuck in every day in this market. That's the last thing I ever want you to do. So you have to incorporate wholesales and probates to consistently hit your 100K. That's what makes it super easy in my business. Now, I'm not going to let you off the hook and not do your regular wholesaling business. What do I mean by your regular wholesaling operations? I'm talking about the singles and the doubles that you have to hit to make deals work. How do we do that? Number one, we go after our government list. I'm not going to go through every government list. You guys know how to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, go over to freewholesaling.com. Me and Zach teach you step by step in detail every type of list that you can tack. And we want to look for lists with the highest motivations. So I'll give you a couple examples. I'm just going to give you like 3 of them. I can go on forever on this. You guys know that. But so if I'm doing probates, I'm doing wholesales, and I can just get a deal every other month, then all I have to do is fill it up with my regular wholesaling operation. Now, if you're just starting out, you've got to find places where you're going to find the most motivated sellers and the most motivated property. And I've already given you how to do that. My favorite government list, hands down, is always going to be code violations. Why? Because where there's smoke, there's fire. It's really simple. People like let their grass get too high. They leave boards up on the windows. There's a hole in the roof. There's a blue tarp on the roof. After a while, the city gets called out. Either the city comes by and inspects it, or some sort of Karen neighbor rats you out. You know how fun they are. And if you don't fix it, you can be levied $100 per day fine against you. Governments are extremely inefficient in this manner, and they don't care what you say. Once they put that lien on your property with lawyers and stuff, it doesn't go away until you get it cleared up. And once it's recorded, you're pretty much in trouble on that. So I'm always going to attack code violations. How often should you pull that list? As often as you humanly possibly can without driving yourself nuts. There's no other way to tell you that. The next list I would attack, definitely going to be pre-foreclosures. And pre-foreclosures is basically someone that's behind on their mortgage payment. This is one of the easier lists to get because honestly, guys, it is public information and it's a lawsuit. So you should have zero. I mean, I repeat, zero resistance when getting pre-foreclosures. I absolutely love them. Now, another list I like, which you don't have to pull up every month. You can actually just pull this once a year, because depending on when taxes come due in your town, when people don't pay their property taxes, the city needs that money to function for their police departments, their schools, their fire departments, all their government buildings. So if the homeowner can't afford to pay the taxes, they'll basically sell a tax certificate to raise money to get someone else to take their place in that, and they get paid an interest rate. Okay. So code violations, pre-foreclosures, and tax delinquencies are all super motivational ways to find the best wholesaling deals. Now, of the three I just mentioned, I would use those three specifically: tax delinquencies, pre-foreclosures, and code violations, and I would do reverse driving for dollars. And then this is nothing more than the technique of going out there and basically putting a note on the doors saying something like, hey, just got a quick question about your house. It's Rick. Put on my virtual phone number. If I have 200 people on these lists, I go out and put out 200 sticky notes. You can do yellow. You can do pink. You can do lime green. I don't care what you do, whatever gets their attention. You can use the stamp to put them on there, because people always answer these things. They have a high return rate, which means people that respond to it. And if I go out and put 230 people call me back, I just saved myself 170 painful conversations. It's extremely efficient. With the advent of Ring Doorbell and tools like Deal Machine, you can easily do this. It's actually really cool. So my other favorite list, which I'm never going to overlook, it is probably the most boring, the least sexy list, but it is driving for dollars. Because if you don't go out and do driving for dollars, it is like having a cheat sheet of properties that look bad, that are ugly, that definitely need help. And if you have that list, and say you have a couple hundred people or 500 people on it, and say I had a list of 10,000 that I bought through a list broker, or I pulled them through PropStream or Batch, whatever, I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get to those lists. I'm probably going to wind up cold calling it. I'm going to do text, and I have to skip trace all those phone numbers. And keep in mind, guys, the driving for dollars, other than the skip trace part, you don't even have to do that if you do the reverse driving for dollars while you're doing it simultaneously, which is pretty cool. And it gets a lot of effect. But if I had 500 like ugly houses, and then I had 10,000 high equity owners, the list of 500 is going to crush the 10,000 list, because you get through the list faster. It's much more direct. There's a higher probability of getting a great wholesaling deal. The 10 grand, I have no idea. So the only way I can find out is either I got to cold call them and or text them, or basically do direct mail. And all that can be expensive. So if you're on a limited budget, which a lot of you are, and I get it, trust me, doing the driving for dollars is absolutely imperative. You have to do that. So I'm looking at your questions here. I will answer these questions shortly. Let's finish everything up here. Now, it goes without saying, networking gets you a long ways in this business. Now, networking isn't just so you get to know everyone. Networking is to getting to know your potential business partners. Number one, who's the best cash buyers in your markets? If you don't know that, I know you're not working your cash buyers list. Number two, what are the hottest areas to buy at, and where are the cash buyers buying? If you're not working with cash buyers, you don't have this intel, and you are missing out. You see, the more intel and the more market data you can get, the more effective you can be in your marketing to find motivated sellers in wholesaling. Networking. If you're like, Rick, well, how do I do networking? Networking is really simple. You got to get in your car, get on your bike, get on your tennis shoes, and you got to go out and connect with people. My favorite way, if you're brand new, one of the easiest ways to do is go to one of your local RIA meetings. This is just short for Real Estate Investors Association. Pay for a membership to get in there, 10 or 20 bucks. Or pay for the year. It's like 150 bucks, 200 bucks. Don't buy any of their programs, because they're just selling you. Sorry to tell you this. This is how they make money. The program director basically jobs to put butts in the seats, and then basically they have a very slick salesman come and speak to you guys, and from that they split the proceeds. So now that you know exactly what they're doing, the most valuable time you can get at these events is just before the event, and then right after, typically in the lobby or in the parking lot. Actually, some of my best deals have come from that. Now, what do? You network. You hand out business cards, electronic cards, whatever your mode of mission is. And you always talk to people from their interest levels. What can I do to help you out with your business? And do not be that person that walks in a networking event or a room and says, give me all your cash buyers, because you aren't looking for relationships. You just want to take. And if all you are is going to take from people, you can't offer a symbiotic relationship, and everyone's going to run from you. Whenever that person comes to any meeting and all they do is chase me down for cash buyers, I go to the opposite end of the room because I already know what their intentions are. They're just going to take, and they're never going to offer you anything. Guys, don't do business with people like that because they're showing you their true self. I would believe them as fast as possible. Okay. Now, one of my favorite ways of networking also is going out and meeting with all the realtors. And you can call them, but basically, I like to attack realtors in two ways. How do I do it? Number one, I find realtors that will actually listen to wholesalers, basically cash buyers like us. And I try to teach them, if you ever have a house that's tired, weak, lonely, ugly, problems with the roof, not going to pass a conventional inspection, not going to get a conventional market, call me. I buy these houses for cash. I can pay your commissions. We move with speed. Why do I do that? Because realtors talk to 95% of the sellers out there. Eventually, they get properties, and most realtors will not admit when they do not work with cash buyers. Most realtors don't even slightly understand cash buyers. It is a dream for them, but they find them very difficult. So if you have a robust cash buyers list, which you should do at this point, then you're already 3 steps ahead of the game. So help the realtor out because they don't want to put on MLS. They don't want to mess with the days on market, and they don't have the cash buyers to buy those properties. Those are my favorite. My second favorite way, if you want to work with a realtor on an expired listing, although sometimes expired listings, the sellers are just crazy. It's not even the realtor. They just did what the seller wanted. But eventually, all sellers break down at some point. They don't break down by calling them 6 months while their property is on the market. It's when they take it off the market and it expires that possibly they're open to talking to wholesalers like us to fix that problem. So just understanding that. And the other networking type is going to be JVs. This is short for joint venture. This is basically when you go out and talk to other wholesalers, sometimes talk to realtors. Where do I go? I go to my title companies. I look for property managers. I look for other wholesalers that are really good with motivated sellers, but have a crappy cash buyers list, or vice versa. Ones that have a great, robust cash buyers list. I have the motivated seller leads and contracts. And if I can find someone to complicate the stuff that I suck at, then I can actually make a very, very awesome living doing wholesaling. And that's what when I started wholesaling, I primarily focused on motivated sellers. I used JVs for my dispo because I didn't want to take the time to do JVs. Eventually, somebody taught me JVs. And basically after my first year and a half, I didn't do a lot of JVs after that, but it worked out well. My first, I think 35, 36 deals were JVs. That's how much I valued doing it. So don't overlook JVs, guys. Just make sure when you do a JV, you either have a joint venture agreement in full, and or if you find the cash buyer for that deal, which is how a lot of you guys do your JV deals, make sure you write the assignment agreement and make sure your fee is spelled out in that assignment of contract and you follow it to a T. When you don't use your assignment of contract, you're running a huge risk of not being paid in the JV deal, and that's no good. Once you have that assignment of contract and or a JV agreement, make sure you get over to the title company so your interest is always protected, and follow up and find out when the exact closing date is. It's important you do all this. Now, with that being said, guys, either you can make 100K the quick way, which I have done it and I've seen people do it over and over. Yes, even do it as a beginner, but I'd rather you acquire the skill sets to make your first 100 grand. I don't care how long it takes you to get there, because I find once wholesalers make 100 grand, it's really easy to make 2, 3, 4, 500, 600,000 quickly. Why? Because all they have to do is scale their operations. A lot of them just add direct mail. Some of them find other employees, which they can basically do delegation with. They bring in an acquisitions manager, they get a dispo person, and all of a sudden they can do a monstrous amount of deals. Remember, the whole goal is how much or how hard do you want to work in wholesaling? The reality is you're going to do the work. But honestly, if you can incorporate probates, if you can incorporate wholesale deals, once you make your normal 20 to 30 to 40 grand in wholesaling under your normal wholesaling operations, by rotating in those JVs and those wholesale deals, you can easily pop $100,000 a month. I never thought it was possible, guys, and I'm just telling you to do it. I do it with such regular ease every month, and you should consider doing this too. So with that being said, let me jump over the comments and then we'll take some lives here. And let's see here. What's up, Junior? I appreciate it. What's up, Hillary? How's it going here? Okay, let me jump up at the top because I skipped a lot. Victor says, waiting for another cold calling of you and your son cold calling. Actually, I think we'll do that probably the next couple weeks here. I got to get Zach in the studio when I do it. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll do that on Tuesday or Thursdays. I figure it out. I do like that though. What's up, Winston? The same rules for, I'm not sure on that. I can't answer that. Smokey, if you can't sign into freewholesaling.com, well, let me give you the spelling to do it. First of all, where is it? It's right there, freewholesaling.com. You were missing an E in there. And if you still can't get into it, then go into an incognito screen or clear your cookies or your caches and or both. I'm not a computer expert. So we get that complaint a lot more than you think we do. So I want you to understand this, guys. For you to be successful and get to the 100K in wholesaling, I will tell you this. You are going to have to lose your ego. I tell you this over and over. If you don't know what your ego is, it is your self-image of what you think you are. And it's very selfish. It's very, very prideful, and it never wants to be wrong. And you're always trying to one-up somebody. And if you let your ego run everything you do, you're not going to make it. Because the only way to learn and receive information is you got to bury your ego. Because if you're constantly judging everything, if it's right or wrong, you have zero shot to grow as a woman, as a man, as a father, as a mother, as an aunt, as an uncle, whatever it is. I'm telling you, you've got to lose your ego. And really, really, really important, you're going to have to lose your excuses. So many of you, I'm not calling names out, but you hop on here and you tell me what your excuse is why you can't do wholesaling. So why would you go on a live stream that's about wholesaling from a successful wholesaler and then get on this thing and like bitch about your circumstances? I can't fix them. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Zach definitely was. A lot of people go, oh, you just gave Zach everything. I didn't. I was brutal on Zach. And to really raise children in the right manner these days, if you truly want your kids to be successful, your job as a parent is to make them independent. And that's going to require struggle. And when you struggle, people find themselves. But the only way to truly struggle is you got to lose your ego and you've got to lose your excuses. If you don't lose your excuses, guys, you'll always have it. And if you have an excuse, you'll always have a reason why you want to do this. I want you to look at this quote here. You can either make 1,000,000 excuses or $1 million, but you can't do both. And I've never found a more truer quote than this one. 1,000,000 excuses or $1 million. It is completely up to you, because if you try to do both, you will get neither. Your excuses won't let you in. You won't make $1 million. So you ever met that person, just everything they tell us, like there's a reason why they can't do anything. After a while, they're unlimited the amount of excuses you can have. There can be reasons some people don't get things, but the reality is if you lose your excuses, you lose your ego, you find a way to navigate through those things to get the job done. But if you put up excuses all day, you'll never get it done. Listen, here's the reality. You got to get busy in your wholesaling journey. You got to do it. I've never met anyone that can skip the journey. I've had people come to me, I got 50, 100 grand. I'm gonna make this a piece of cake. And you know what? I'm more concerned with those people than the person that starts out broke with me. Why? Because they think the money's going to buy their way in. Now you earn that money by being hopefully smarter in another business or another asset class. And the reality, if your parents gave you that money or it's like trust fund money, most likely you're going to get killed. Because if it was that easy, everybody could buy their way in the wholesaling and the rest would be already done. But that's not the truth. Listen, at the end of the day, winners win and losers lose. I know it's a hard statement. I know some snowflakes are going to freak out when they see this. But listen, if you're a loser and that's all you focus on, that's all you do, you're just constantly going to lose. And if you are swinging your bat hard as you can to be a winner, you're taking the steps, you're doing the action, you're losing all your excuses, and you lose your ego, it is hard to wind up in the loser's bracket. So guys, winners win, losers lose. Decide which camp you want to do. They're both hard. Like they are both brutally hard. And some people think one's so much easier than the others. The only difference is the winners are in control. Okay. Losers wait till it gets so painful before they actually take any action. By the time they get to that point, they're so far behind that they get overwhelmed and they procrastinate and they never make it happen. And that's where all the excuses from. So choose which camp you want to be in. Listen, the reality is you can be a healthy, fit person or you can be a fat and out of shape person. They're both hard, but guess which one's harder in the end? If you never take care of your body and you eat whatever you want and you just let it go, you are going to have the ultimate pain in the end, because for you to get your health back, you're going to have to do extreme measures and it's going to be really hard. So why not just do the daily manageable tasks to consistently do your marketing, contact sellers, and keep all your lists going to get your 100 grand. I'm telling you, 100 grand is like the bare minimum in wholesaling. Because if you can make 100 grand, you can make a million with your eyes shut. But you just got to get those first few deals done. And you're no different than me. When I started out, I was like, how the hell am I ever going to get this done? I just got rid of my excuses. I lost my ego and I wound up getting it done. So